Welcome to the Raynin Threes podcast with Alan Ray and Mike O'Connell. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Raynin Threes. I'm your host, Mike O'Connell, here with the Nova Hoops legend, Alan Ray. Hey, Ray and I have a special guest for you guys tonight. It is the former Hofstra baseball infielder turned Villanova communications major grad, the now producer for Pardon My Take of Barstool Sports, Max Dolente. Max, we really appreciate you coming on with us tonight. And let's get into it, man. Let's talk some Nova hoops, huh?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Ready to talk some Nova hoops for sure.
Yep, definitely. Thanks for coming on the show, Max. We already got some history on Twitter, but I mean, I think it's all good history, and it's all good, yes, and it's definitely all love. But yeah, like OC said, man. I mean, let's jump right into it. OC, what you got, OC?
Yeah, I mean, we know from your great Twitter following, you're active on X, whatever you want to call it, and it's been fun to watch you guys, both of you, really just to put your thoughts out there. Big East Twitter has been absolutely electric in a lot of ways surrounding Villanova, especially. But just from being, a local kid, Max, growing up in Devon, Pennsylvania, right there on the main line, what is Villanova basketball's role, compared to the rest of Philly sports? Like, what is its place amongst Philly sports to you personally?
Nova's 1A, 1B for me. It's like Eagles, Villanova basketball my whole life. It's been that. My grandfather went there, grew up 10 minutes from campus, ended up graduating from the college. I remember going to the pavilion when I was like 6 years old. Derek Snowden was my favorite player because he had the cornrows and wore number 3 like AI. So like
Snow is funny.
my whole life I've been ride or dying with Villanova basketball. Like there's something about like watching a Big East game that like losing a Big East game, I can't sleep at night more than like any other sport because everything feels so pivotal. And there's something that's probably why it's the Eagles and Nova basketball. It's 1A, 1B because there's something about those losses that just sting more than everything else.
What's harder, Eagles or Nova losses, or like what team is harder to root for?
I mean it's the historically I would say the Eagles for sure. Villanova basketball has been pretty easy to root for in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Past couple of years it's been a little bit different, but I would definitely say right now it's Villanova basketball. It's tough to watch.
What is it about Philly sports that makes people so emotionally involved? Like I grew up in New York, and obviously the Knicks, yes, people love the Knicks, but being out here and seeing it this year with Villanova basketball and the Eagles, like you guys are really invested with these teams. Like why do you think that is?
I say Philly sports are like I lived in New York for 4 years. I went to college there for 2 years before I went to Nova. So I'm like very ingrained with New York sports and Philly sports because I've been around it my whole life. I think like the biggest difference between Philadelphia and New York when it comes to sports is that New York just has so many transplants. Like in Philly, it's only Philly. Like if you're in the grocery store during like an Eagles game and you see that the Bird just scored, you're turning to the person to your left, you're turning to the person to your right, you're being like, Bird 7-0. And no matter what, you're getting that response. And it's that like community feeling that like, I don't care who you are, you want the Eagles to win. It doesn't matter. And then in like New York, there's kind of like a rivalry. So it's like your classmates growing up, like your friends growing up, you could be a Jets fan, you could be a Giants fan. Like I guess back in the Nets don't have the same following as the Knicks. That's the one thing that I have found is like it's basically Knicks or nothing, but there's still that sort of rivalry within New York, not to mention like all the people that moved to New York from around the country that there's just not that like community like there is in Philly. And I think that like brings out this passion that it just makes everyone care so much because that's what Philly's got. Like Philly is a sports town through and through. It's like all of when you're living in Philly, like everything is based on what are we doing Sunday for the tailgate. It's each season is like, what are we doing around our sports? And like, that is our social life.
Oh no, I feel you on that. Just like the Yankees and the Mets, for example. Like in New York, you got to be, if you turn to the person to the right of you, it's like, hold on, are you a Mets fan or are you a Yankees fan before you got to say anything? So I definitely get where you coming from with that, and it definitely makes more of a community, like you said, like everybody's rooting for that one team. So I definitely get where you coming from. So I want to ask you about Coach Wright. When Coach Wright announced his retirement in April 2022, what was your thoughts about that? And did you immediately think about the future of the program?
Of course. I mean, obviously, it was a real slap in the face. No one was really seeing it coming. I remember exactly where I was. I was at work. I was walking out. I was going on like my third date with my now girlfriend of 2 years, and I remember I got to the date, and I was like, I'm gonna just be upfront with you right now. Like, I just had like one of the worst things in my life possibly happen to me. So like, this might not be like the right energy going into this date because Jay Wright was everything. Like at the
Yeah,
time, he was the best coach in college basketball. We're coming off the Final Four of like a team that really just grinded it out, and like they probably weren't that wasn't our most talented team, that 2022 Final Four, but it was just like Jay Wright guys. Like Jay Wright can get his guys in positions to win games, and we were just spoiled. It was just, and for all of that to like come crashing down, like it was like, where are we going to go from here? And it
yeah.
was a real, thing that you had to process. But here we are now. It's still optimistic because we still have the foundation of a great program, and like we can be in a situation to get back to that, but you knew
So
it wasn't going to be the same.
I think
Yeah, no,
that's where a big problem comes at in with this year's team and like not last year's team. Like you just said it. Um, like we just have so much history and like we've been spoiled so much. And Coach Wright, that 2022 Final Four team, on paper, I can admit myself, I never even expected them to go to the Final Four. But like having a Coach Wright team like that, he will kind of will his teams into positions like that. And I think that's like one of the big things that's going on right now with Coach Neptune and Villanova right now. Like we've been so spoiled and we've seen Coach Wright do things like this, push these teams, get them to play harder, and do things that they probably didn't think they could do themselves. So I kind of get where you, I get, not kind of, I get where you're coming from. And that goes back again, like those are just some big shoes to fill.
yeah, no, 100%. And Max, it's actually funny that you tell us that story because I also have a similar story. I was down in Florida visiting my grandparents with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my girlfriend of 2.5 years. It was her first time meeting them. We were staying there, whatever. We were going out to dinner, and my grandpa, who graduated from Villanova back in the '60s, who was like the biggest Villanova basketball fan like you could possibly imagine, but he's very negative, right? So I tell him the Jay Wright news while we're at dinner. My girlfriend has no idea what's going on. My grandfather literally called him a turncoat. Literally tried to like demonize Jay Wright for retiring because of just how devastating the news was. So as you could tell, the energy was completely thrown off for what was supposed to be a nice night with my girlfriend and my grandparents. But but aside the fact, Jay Wright, he brought so much stability to the program. He spoiled us to death, and now looking back, we're like that 2022 team. You're right, guys. No business making the Final Four, but that
Yeah.
Jay took that team and elevated them to the next level. And if you honestly really think about it, if Justin Moore doesn't get hurt in the Elite Eight game against Houston, who knows what happens against Kansas, and who knows what happens in the championship game? Like there is still an opportunity there for us to move forward, but unfortunately, we had the more torn Achilles. But just did you think that it was the right move to stay in house and hire somebody that was a part of the Jay Wright coaching tree, Max, or did you want them to go out and perform a national search and maybe look at a guy like Tony Bennett from UVA or some other guys with proven resumes that have won at the highest level?
I mean, at the time, it was Villanova basketball through and through, and there was a part of me that was scared about going away from that
Okay.
because you don't know necessarily what isn't there. So also the sort of fan is I'm going to be convinced of whatever happens in front of me. Like if you put something in front of me, I'm going to be like, that's the best move. This team's going to win the national championship next year. So it's easy to say now, like at that time, I was like, let's go. Villanova basketball is going to go on. Jay Wright's going to be this like advisor to the program, is going to be at practices and teaching Neptune like what Villanova basketball is and getting these guys. And it's just going to be a continuation of Villanova basketball going forward. I think I didn't give Jay enough credit and thought that maybe the system could just turn over and just be the same thing going on, because in my denial, that's what I wanted to believe, that like, all right, Jay's gone, but you know what? This is still a Jay guy. He knows Nova culture. He knows Nova hoops. It's just going to be the same thing forever. And it doesn't matter who's there. We've already built this foundation that it's just going to keep going. Obviously, it looks like right now, not necessarily the case.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, especially with me, you know, I'm big on like being positive, and you know, I felt like being in-house.
Oh, really? You are?
And I felt like
I'm not. Yeah, well, I guess we'll get to that, but
and I'm just like, this sounds like the best move to make. Like, you want to stay in-house. It's Villanova basketball. Like, they know traditions. Kyle knows traditions, everything. So I was definitely happy with the move. And I mean, even if it was Baker Dunleavy, like it didn't matter. It was just somebody from Villanova. So like I felt really good about it. I felt really good about it.
What about George Halkovich? Because he apparently was not happy when he didn't get the job. He thought he was going to be the heir to the throne, but he was not. You know about that, A-Ray?
So I only know a little bit about that, but I mean, I don't know. No coaching experience, like no head coaching experience, like out of everybody. So I could see why they probably went in another direction. But how's he doing over there in Buffalo? Where's he at right now? Not Buffalo, is it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, how's he doing over there?
Just like everybody else in the Jay Wright coaching tree. I mean,
yeah.
We like for 1 year at Fordham max. Like, did that ever come to mind where you're like, all right, wait, why are we hiring this guy? Or is it like, okay, he's been an assistant from 2012 to 2018 under Jay. Like, he's fine. Like, he knows the program. He's got the attitude mantra. Like, we're good with it. Is that kind of your mindset, or at least what it was?
I mean, so when I was working in the Barstool office at the time, there were a couple kids who went to Fordham and like followed the basketball program pretty well, and they loved Kyle Neptune. So like everyone I talked to from the Fordham program at that time was like, Kyle Neptune's changing this entire college basketball team. Like, he's bringing Jay Wright over to Fordham. Like, this is our guy, and they were devastated when they saw that he left, because I think he went like 15 and 16 is 1 year there. Something like that.
Yeah, he was like 17 and 17 or whatever it was.
Yeah. I know it was like right around 500, but they were coming off like a single-digit season the year before, and he was building momentum for that program. So that was another thing of like blind optimism. I'm there, but it's just like I'll get very emotional about what's going on at the moment, and I guess like I had enough around me of like things that could get me excited that I was all in on Kyle Neptune from the beginning, or at the beginning.
yeah. Very key word choice there, that's for sure. But right now, right, we're on this 4-game losing skid. We've seen the highs and lows of this team, not just like, you know, going back to last year, but this year especially, winning the battle for Atlantis, right? You know, beating a team we talked about a little bit before the show at Creighton back on December 20th. We thought that it was like, okay, we're back. This is how the Big East is going to look. We're going to be able to pull out tough wins on the road. We're going to be able to take care of business against teams like DePaul. And obviously, since then, it has not gone our way. Like, throughout these games, there's been a common theme. Or I'm actually asking you, have you seen a common theme in terms of what really has stuck out to you in terms of why we're losing these games, why we're blowing leads, why we're getting off the slow starts? Like, what jumps to mind to you in terms of that reality?
I mean, I'm just kind of it's just runs every game. It's I mean, we're going on runs too, but we're just giving up these slow starts, like you said. I think Marquette, both games we had slow starts. St. John's a slow start, and UConn we had a slow start. So it's like we're starting ourselves in a hole, and then we can get back, and then we get back, and then we give up another run. So it's like we haven't played a full 40 minutes since like Memphis, or even Memphis. We were up 40, and then I came back and made it a 20-point game or later in that game. But like UNC, you can say that we played a full game, but still, it's just like we cannot put 40 minutes together. And when we look good, we look so good. But then there's those times where it's like, what is going on? What am I watching?
But what do you think it is? Like when you watching a game, what stands out to you the most that you see like, okay, like this needs to be fixed?
I think it's just like one big thing that I've seen this year is that like we don't have all good Villanova basketball teams have had a true like alpha point guard that can like control the offense and everything goes through them. We've gone through so many iterations of like who that guy is this year, and we just haven't been able to figure it out. Like JMO getting hurt obviously affected things. I don't think that he's been the same player since he's come back, and it's tough to kind of figure out who that alpha is if he's not playing at 100%, which right now it kind of looks like that's the case. And we're like a Villanova basketball team needs that guy. Like if you look at all of our like all of our best teams, we went from Ryan Arcidiacono, Jalen Brunson to Colin Gillespie. Like those are the cornerstones of your team, and you want Justin Moore to be that guy, but it looks like he's just not 100% healthy right now. So now we're just going. What I'm finding is that we're going through these moments of like, is it Justin Moore? Is it TJ Bamba? Is it Mark Armstrong? And we don't really have an identity on offense right now because it just turns into like, who's going to be the guy right there? Who's going to be the guy? That there's nothing that we can really build upon in this offense. And it ends up being a lot of like, all right, it's going to be me this drive. It's going to be me this drive. And then if I don't have anything, I'm just going to throw it to Dixon and hope that he can get something in. And there's just not a lot of continuity that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's just like roles aren't defined. You know, like we know Housen wants to come in, like let Housen shoot threes. Tyler Burton yesterday, he was on from threes, he was hitting, but that's not who we want shooting threes all the time. And he gets a lot of wide open threes, obviously, because the defense just lets him shoot because they read the scouting report. And then like it'll be times you'll see Eric Dixon try to force things in the paint because he's getting double teamed. But if he doesn't force things, then how's he supposed to get shots? So like you said, it just doesn't seem to click all the time. But when we are clicking, the ball is moving, boom, boom, boom. We get into the lane, we getting open looks. So I definitely feel like it got to do with a lot with lineups too. Like guys are just not comfortable playing with each other.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like one thing that I thought would be start to click more towards the end of the season because you have all these transfers and none of them have played together. And like the most discouraging thing that I'm seeing is that ideally when you have all of these guys and like the more that they play together, the more that they can start to get into a unit and like become one solid offense. But right now it's just going the opposite direction. And like, that's where I will get frustrated during games and we'll be like, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Right. And even against Butler, which I thought might have been the worst loss of the year, at least most frustrating.
Big fact.
In this two overtime periods, both of you guys were on the same page, as was I. I didn't tweet anything out, but I saw what you guys were saying. And I was talking to my buddies in our group chat. It was like, how is every possession in overtime not going through Bamba and Dixon? And those guys had the hot hands, right? And it was like, clearly that is what's clicking on offense. Kick it out, let Bamba take it up and dump it down low to Eric. If he wants to kick it back out to TJ, then he can slash the hoop, whatever it is. Those guys need the ball in their hands. And we've seen like things work consistently and then like all of a sudden they change it up. And Justin Moore took like 4 field goals in that second overtime that were way short, hit the front rim. And it was just like, wait, why is this happening? And I don't know if that's coaching, not saying like, hey, we need to stick with not telling them to stick with Dixon and Bamba. But like, you guys saw it. We saw it. It was extremely frustrating, and I feel like that's been a major problem. Is like, okay, we've identified what has been working, what is successful, and we're not going back to it consistently enough. I don't know. That's something that stuck out to me throughout all of the losses this season and even last season.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's tough. Like Justin Moore is supposed to be like the face of this team this year. He's the 6-year guy. He's the leader. He's the captain of the team that you could say, but he can't. 2 overtimes. He can't play those minutes right now. Like he's not. He's coming off of an injury, of an Achilles injury, and then he's getting himself back, and then he gets hurt again. Like you got to know limitations. And it's tough to say Justin Moore, like, you got to take a back seat because he's supposed to be that guy. But that's what was best for the program in that moment. And, like, you know that he's going to try and do it because he feels that pressure of being that next in line Villanova guard. But, like, as a coach, I think that you have to be able to, like, have that conversation with him or sit him down and just be like, hey, man, this isn't against you. You're still the leader of this team. But I got to get you back into this playing shape. Like, this 2 overtimes is a long time for you. Right now, you don't have the legs for this, and I can't have you like taking these shots when TJ Bamba is leading the offense like he was.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that, and that's been one of the main things that's been circulating for like the past couple of weeks now. Is that question about Justin Moore? Like, is he still that guy? Is he still that alpha, or can he be that alpha for us? Now I know you've been watching the games the past couple of weeks, past few games, and like Mark Armstrong has really come along and started asserting himself at that guard position, which I like a lot. And we usually see Mark do it against like a Georgetown, DePaul, but he's had 2 real good games against Marquette back to back. And I really like that fire that kind of set up under him yesterday. It kind of looked like he was the only one out there like I'm not trying to lose this game. Like I'm about to just go out there and make plays. And that's what's missing, and that's what those throwback Villanova guards used to do. Like they used to control the game, but at the same time, if we needed a bucket or we needed a play to make, like they was capable of making that play. So we definitely missing that this year, and it has to be a conversation, with the coach and Justin with that. I feel. And I'm not saying like Justin's not a good player. Like we all love Justin for sure. He's had so many injuries, and it looked like it's starting to take a toll on him. It looked like it's kind of catching up to him a little bit. When I first seen him come back, I didn't really know if he was 100% at all. So he still doesn't look 100% to me too. But like you see when he comes back, Hakeem Hart kind of takes a back seat a little bit, and Hakeem Hart was playing great while Justin was out. So it's a lot going on, and it's a lot of stuff that needs to be like addressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Armstrong is like the prototypical second-year Villanova guy who, yeah, there are times where he like looks like a second-year guy where he'll play a little erratic,
for sure.
but then you see what you saw yesterday against Marquette, and it's like this is like the progression of like a Villanova basketball point guard, and like you want to see more out of that because he is a guy that is special. Like he's a point guard that we honestly like his bounce and athleticism is like second to none when you like think about
For real.
like a lot of Villanova guards that like he could be something special. We just have to develop him into that, and I'm worried about the development program that we're leaning towards right now.
Yeah, I was loving it. Where were you for the Mark Armstrong game?
Yeah.
I saw your tweet during the game, and I was like, that's exactly our thoughts at this point in time, because he was just taking over. Him and Bamba looked unstoppable. I mean, we went on a 31-10 run to get ourselves back in the game and then take the lead. Obviously, we know how it ended, but just like you talked about earlier, Max, we can be so good when we want to be in those stretches of time against even opponents like Marquette, UConn, some of the best teams in the country. And now it's like, all right, wait a minute. Ray and I talked about it during the game last night. The energy just looked off a little bit. Like you get a timeout, then you take some people out of the game, then all of a sudden it's like, where has the offense gone? Where's the plan? They're forcing shots up down low, and it doesn't come out the way that we want it to be. And that's the thing that this team is susceptible to happening, because there is no plan on offense. There is no, all right, Mark is going to run the offense throughout the entire game, like a Gillespie or Brunson, Archiacono, a Scotty Reynolds did that we were so accustomed to seeing. And moving forward for the rest of the season, the season is not over just yet, right? We're one game over 500, but there's still a lot of games to be played. What's your plan? Do you just give the keys to Mark Armstrong? Because Ray and I have come up with that as our solution, or at least possible solution moving forward.
Yeah, I think Mark Armstrong probably gives you the highest ceiling. Like, he has the potential to be like a big, like an all big, like Big East MVP or whatever it's called. Like, yeah. He has that in his bag, and I do think that he can get to that. I think that there are going to be times where you see Mark Armstrong and it's like, all right, like let's set up more of an offense right now. I think probably TJ Bamba would be the most. He's looking to me like the most consistent and safe guy, but like I can see 100% like Mark Armstrong, like the ceiling that he would bring could be like very, very worth it.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that it's Justin Moore right now, which is like pains me to say because he has been such a great like Wildcat in his career here, but like he just doesn't look like the same player right now. And I just think that Neptune needs to. It's a tough decision. It's not an easy decision for him to make. But I think he just got to sit down and be like, "Hey, man, you were a really good off-ball guard when you played with Gillespie. Like, I think you need to get back into that role so that we can have this like united offense like we've seen in Villanova's past."
Yeah, I think it should happen. We should see it before the season is over. So let me ask you, fire Neptune. Like, does that solve anything right now? Firing Neptune right now during the middle of the season, like, does that change anything?
No. So like I don't if you've ever like I don't know if you've ever seen like the clips of me watching like Eagles games or whatever. Like I'm a lunatic when I'm watching my teams. And like even when at Villanova Twitter, like I'm not even really tweeting to like Villanova Twitter. That's just kind of my internal thing. It's not like if you look at like my engagement for like Nova Twitter, it's not like I don't have a big like Villanova following, but it's like a journal to me that I need to just get out. And it's probably unhealthy, but I just need to say what's on my mind at that moment. Firing Neptune in the middle of the season would do nothing. There's still a chance to make the tournament. That's the goal right now. But if you don't make it to the tournament this year, I think there are other options out there, and I worry about keeping Neptune long term and us turning into a Georgetown, and like that terrifies me. And I think that we have enough money in our alumni that we can go out and get guys. You saw in this past offseason that we're going to be willing to spend. We were a top 5 NIL team this year. And I think that those guys are not going to be – I don't think it's going to be acceptable seeing too many more seasons like this if they're putting up this much money.
Yeah, no, that's 1,000% correct. And the expectations going into the season were obviously sky high because of the $3 million roster that they built, because of bringing in TJ Bamba, Tyler Burton, Lance Ware, and Hakeem Hart, coupling them with our guys like Dixon, Moore, Longino, like on paper, right? Like everyone was so fired up about the season saying, all right, this team's going to finish in the top 4 of the Big East. They can make it to the second round of the NCAA tournament. So, like, the fact of the matter is we're not even close to that right now, right? But everyone's pointing the finger at Neptune, and that really, it kind of does make some sense in terms of like where else could you really put the blame with this much talent on paper. You look at in the NFL, you look at the NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever it is. If you have that much talent, then the managerial positions are usually where the blame goes to. And I don't think that this team has any sort of chemistry issues when it comes to actual, like, I think they all like each other at least. At least that is what it seems like. But at the same time, you look at a picture of a huddle with Jay right there and a huddle with Kyle Neptune there. No, you didn't really see that same camaraderie and brotherhood of, everyone's got their arms around each other like a chain link fence. So that kind of scares me a little bit. The body language of Kyle Neptune himself. Seems like a great guy, a very nice guy, very knowledgeable coach, but his body language alone, like Max, have you noticed he's scratching his beard? He just looks a little less like comfortable, especially compared to a guy that had so much confidence and swagger like Coach Wright.
He nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, he hears like the boos last night. Like he knows that this is unacceptable for Villanova basketball and not to the standards of the fans or like anyone in the program. So I can understand why he's acting with like that nerve right now because he knows it's like his job's on the line. And like the thing that you can talk like body language. I think that's going to be any team that is struggling when they had such high expectations coming into the year. The thing that worries me the most is that Villanova's had this history of player development for so long now that guys get better and better and better every year. And if you look at this roster compared to what they did last year at their respective schools, Villanova guys included, every single guy on the board has a worse field goal percentage than they did last year. With the exception of Mark Armstrong, I think he's the only one. Every single one of those guys is getting worse. And like that can't happen. Like guys, you need to develop a program where guys are getting better and better and better each year. And if everyone is playing worse than they were coming into the year, that is just like a terrifying situation to be in.
Yeah. That definitely is. I look at it. I get what you're saying. Like I definitely like that makes a lot of sense. Like it makes all the sense. But I just gotta take into consideration we okay, we got a guy like Tyler Burton who was A10 player of the year, and
Yeah,
comes to the Big East now, and it's a whole different ball game, different league, different players. I feel like a lot of those guys might be struggling to adjust a little bit. I feel like with TJ Bamba, like look at TJ Bamba since his birthday. He's been playing off the charts, getting to the lane. Like I like TJ Bamba. I don't necessarily need him coming off pick and rolls, but he's the one person that could get downhill and get to the lane. Like he's that strong. So I just think like maybe is it possible that like where these guys coming from, what conferences that they played in, can also play a factor of how they play now in the Big East. But don't get it twisted. What you said about player development is definitely important at Villanova, and it's one of the most important things that we do.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Big East is definitely like a completely different style of play than. I mean, I know that the rest of them have come from, other than Burton, the rest of them all came from Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
But the Big East is still different than the rest of the country when it comes to like physicality and like just style of play. So I can understand that would be a reason, but it's just even with that, I still think that like mid-season that there should be some sort of, if of a well-coached team, there should be some sort of progression and from what we looked back at in Atlantis to now, it's just going the opposite direction. And that's like, I would be okay if we were just showing some sign of like things are getting better. And it's just not that way right now.
Yeah, there's no real upward trajectory right now, especially losing 4 in a row. We had their opportunities against UConn, against Butler on the road, and even last night against Marquette. So it's been a tough pill to swallow to really now just see these guys basically just fighting to keep their head above water at 11-10. But still a lot of season left, and we'll see what happens. But Max, you're a diehard 76ers fan. Have you been watching the Villanova Knicks? Are you rooting for them in any capacity? What are your thoughts on those guys?
I'll never say that I'm rooting for the Knicks because that's just not my DNA. But it's hard. It's definitely hard this year because I love those guys, and I will always love Jalen Brunson and obviously Hart and DiVincenzo. Like, I'm not going to say I'm rooting for the Knicks because it's the Knicks, but there's a part of me that doesn't hate to see their success. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. That's fair. I love it. And obviously, I don't know if you've seen all of the action on the Big East films, the Blue Demon Degenerates, Divine Providence documentary they put out. So
Yeah.
did you have the chance to check that out at all?
Oh yeah, watched the full thing before it got taken down on YouTube.
I
Whatever
love
day
it.
that was, 2 days ago.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
great. I mean that
Like, what's
it
your whole
looks like
take on
there's.
that?
I mean,
The whole
I'm obviously
situation.
gonna take
Jeff
Blue
Goodman included.
Demon DeGen's side. Jeff Goodman is
Yeah.
not he's not a friend of the program of Barstool Sports of any way in the past. So it was pretty easy for people to jump on that bandwagon. I've heard there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that wasn't necessarily screenshotted that makes Goodman look a little bit. I don't know. I mean,
Yo,
I've heard
why
both
does
things.
everybody always come for Goodman? Like,
Yeah,
I see
I mean,
everybody come for him all the time.
Even
Goodman he just likes to talk shit. Like he gets in the mud and like
yeah.
will go at people and make enemies. So it makes sense that as soon as something comes out that makes him look bad, all of the enemies that he's created in the past are like, fuck yeah, let's go after
Yeah.
Goodman. This is our time. So like he's not like a guy who's trying to make friends, which is I know one way to go about the business. But obviously from the outside looking in, I was fired up for Blue Demon DeGen. It looked like he made a good product. It started to get a little bit of traction. And it was just a common enemy that people were just excited to get behind. I hated to see Johnny Fanta kind of in the middle of it because he's the best. I don't know if you guys have had him on the show. He's the absolute best, like such a good guy. So I didn't like to, because it was kind of, if you were on Blue, it was because Goodman was trying to defend Fanta was the whole thing. But
right.
I will always be Team Johnny Fanta no matter what.
That's a fact.
It was fun. It was fun to see kind of Big E's Twitter go after Goodman for sure.
Yeah, Big E's Twitter literally got like teamed up like the Avengers in Endgame. Man.
Yeah. And I saw that clip. That was fun.
Yeah, exactly. It was incredible, and it's funny because you guys had some Twitter beef, but you buried the hatchet, unlike Jeff Goodman and your boss, the Prez Portnoy. We're going at it. Him and Goodman have a rich history in terms of Twitter feuds, but listen, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Really hope you enjoyed your time on Raynin and Ray and I, and we'd love to have you back again soon, my man.
Yeah, anytime. This was great. Really fun. Love talking Nova hoops.
Yes, sir.
Definitely was good getting your insight. You know, especially, you know, we be on Twitter. We don't really get a chance to like really say the things that we want to say, but you definitely do have some really good insight on Villanova basketball, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know that day that when you tweeted at me, I remember I was I think that was like Thanksgiving week. I was at like a family party. I was like, holy shit, I got A-Ray coming at me right now on Twitter. And it was like my whole family's like such like lifelong Villanova fans. And they were like, what's going on here? What are you talking about? And I was like, fuck. I was like, that's fair. I mean, it was coming off Bahamas. And like I said, like in the moment, I'm going to fire off whatever. And like,
yeah,
I'll say fucking fire Kyle Neptune to the day I die in that moment. But then give me like an hour or two to like really decompress. I'm a passionate guy. I'm an emotional guy. And when my teams are losing, like if you've seen on Twitter, it can get ugly. So that was a funny time, but it was. I'm happy to see that it looks like we're all right now.
Nah, we good. We good.
You gotta love the energy, enthusiasm. A-Ray always tells me to calm down, but I like your style too, Max. Big time.
Yeah.
Max Dolente, everyone. A-Ray. That was a ton of fun chopping up with Barstool's finest there. He knows Villanova basketball, that's for sure.
Yeah, he definitely do. This conversation today was a lot misleading than his tweets. His tweets are. He seems like a maniac behind when he got the Twitter fingers, but when he came on the show today, he actually knows a lot about Villanova basketball, and you could tell that he's been a fan for a long time. So it was good to get his insights on Villanova basketball this year, and also just hear him talk about Neptune and the whole Fire Neptune thing. You know, he said that he don't think that it would change anything right now, but when he's in the moment, you know, emotions and everything is Fire Neptune, which I understand, and you know that was the reason why I I took that opportunity to tweet back at him because of all the Fire Neptune stuff. And as soon as we went on that little run, I felt like it was a perfect time. But it's not aging well right now.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. It's funny because I think he's the embodiment of a lot of fans, and in
Yeah.
some ways, similar to me, except I don't really have the Twitter fingers. I just have the passion, the enthusiasm, the energy during the game watch, right?
Yeah.
Live taking in the game, throughout those 40 minutes of basketball, you're gonna see me react in a lot of ways that I wouldn't normally react to post game, pre game, even on this show.
You
Hey,
kind of
Ray.
surprised me yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. Just like
Uh,
your reactions during the game. Like I don't know if I would like leave my kids around you.
Yo, come on, man. That's ridiculous. In the right environment, I am even keeled and very responsible and very respectful. But at
All
that
right.
time, people are watching. They want to see, the real passion, the real fire behind what this fandom of Villanova basketball is and what it means to me. Hey, Ray, you played for the team. You're an ambassador for the program. I myself am more so the fan, more so someone on the outside looking in. As much as I'd like to be on the inside
Yeah.
the walls, inside the locker room, inside the Finner Pavilion, which I spent a lot of time in, it's still not necessarily my role. So I think that's what the two of us work so well together at is our different perspectives. And you can tell me to calm down and relax, which you do a lot. But at the same time, I think I can maybe raise a couple points here and there that you didn't think about because you were a player and you were not a fan. So I'm blessed to be doing this show with you now. But I think Max coming on really shows that he does have that Jekyll and Hyde type of mentality when it comes to being like live in game, reacting live
Yeah.
to what's going on in front of him, versus being able to kind of gather your thoughts and make your judgments post game a few days later, like he had mentioned before. And that's exactly what he did. So he came on Raynin threes and was spitting facts. And really, I thought we had a great conversation, and very civilized one as well. Hey, Ray.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you, OC. So we talk about the transfer portal a lot, um, and getting players from the transfer portal, getting players out of the transfer portal. Do you think we're gonna lose any players to the transfer portal after this year, or is that a possibility?
I think it's definitely a possibility, and it scares the hell out of me too, A-Ray, because we obviously didn't lose anybody last year. We brought everyone back that we could, except for Cam, who, it made sense for him to go to the NBA. Look what he's doing now, right? Cam
Hmm.
Whitmore is absolutely killing it on the Houston Rockets. So happy for him. Brandon Slater, Caleb Daniels. Slater is doing his thing in the G League up in Maine, playing for the Celtics G League team. I think Caleb Daniels is going to get an opportunity somewhere, whether it be overseas. He's got a great basketball IQ and he knows how to play the game inside and out. And aside from that, though, Eric came back, Justin came back, Longino stayed the course. Mark Armstrong, who everyone was worried about, is he even going to go to Villanova with Cam Whitmore after Jay Wright retired? So we have not really known too many guys aside from Cole Swider, right? He transferred out. Someone transferred to Davidson. His name is escaping me right now. I can't believe I'm not remembering his name. But
To Davidson
yes, to Davidson.
from Nova.
Yes.
Yeah, that I can't think of it right now
He was
either.
a good 3-point shooter. I'm struggling. I'm gonna have to look this up right now because it's really bothering me. But my point is, we're not used to anybody really just jumping ship and leaving this team when it comes to being like, all right, this is the best place for me to play basketball. And almost, Brian Antoine is a guy who transferred out as well. He's not the guy I'm thinking of. But at the same time, BA's career was kind of marred by injuries. It didn't really make sense for him to stay in a crowded backcourt as it was. So, it's that made sense. That wasn't something that, Angelo Brizzi. Brizzi was someone that
Yeah.
came into Villanova and he never really was able to carve out a role for himself. He transferred to Davidson. So I really think that if we have another change in regime, if Neptune ends up getting fired and we bring somebody else in, I would not be shocked if Armstrong and or Brandon Housen and or Jordan Longino, anyone else that still has eligibility on this team to say, hey, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to see what else is out there for me when it comes to NIL and changing it up to get a breath of fresh air, whatever it may be, change of scenery. But hey, Ray, that scares me because it's certainly possible, based on what we do the rest of the season. Though is will determine whether or not these guys have any sort of like thought of leaving in the first place.
Yeah, my biggest concern, I'll tell you right off the top of just right off the jump, is Mark Armstrong. Like
Yeah.
he's the biggest name that comes to mind when you think about transfer portal and in the off season. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna be keeping my eye on in the off season. But yeah, I think he's one of the one guys that I would be nervous about for leaving in the transfer portal in the off season. Now we gotta ask this question to another guest, somebody that comes on that's like real knowledgeable, and really ask them about how they feel moving forward with NIL and all of this stuff. Like, do we continue to hit the transfer portal as hard as we did, or do we stick to our roots and just like develop our young guys, get the young guys? Like
Yeah.
that's really the question moving forward. Like, how do you want the program to go? Do you want to still build up our players? Do you still want to develop our players young out of high school and add some pieces from the portal? Or do we go to the portal and add pieces to those portal players? You know what I'm saying?
No, I do. I mean, and you said it right away. It's like, well, how are we going to build the team? And this year's team, included four guys from the portal, four
Portal.
guys that have never played Villanova basketball before in their careers. Although they have had plenty of experience playing elsewhere and have had a lot of success elsewhere as well, especially Bamba, Hart, and Burton. You would think that, okay, is this experiment, and that's very much what it was, A-Ray, an
For sure.
experiment going to work. And we've seen it at its greatest, where TJ Bamba, Tyler Burton, these guys are leading the team in scoring on a given night. We won the battle for Atlantis. You could say thanks to Eric first and foremost, but don't tell me that at least three of those guys I mentioned before wear a little bit more of a role player
Yeah.
and not really getting into the starting five. But don't tell me that those guys didn't have an integral role in the success of this team when it's come. And you can really say that, wow, these guys, when they're playing well, we talked about it a little bit before with Max, look incredible. Like they look like they can beat anybody in the country. We've seen that when we beat Carolina, Memphis, Texas Tech. We've seen that when we went down the wire with the number one team in the country in UConn. We saw that last night against Marquette. We're outscoring them by 21 points over a sustained portion of the game. Like we've seen this team play just as good as basketball as just as anyone in the country. And it's like, wait a minute, where does this go? At some points when we don't score for 7.5 minutes, or we go down 11-0 to start out a game, and we can't hit water if we fell out of a boat from 3-point land. It's really just so frustrating because we've seen the greatness that this team does possess when they're clicking on all cylinders. And don't tell me though, oh, that's every team. Every team looks that good when they're playing well. No way. No way. When this team is clicking and they can run up and down, they're getting in their sets, and they're actually being able to get to the 10 and then create open shots from the outside. This team looks like they can beat anybody in the country, and especially on defense. We've seen them lock up on defense. Hey, Ray, you were tweeting about it even last night. It's like, damn, we looked unstoppable, or should I say immovable on the defensive end in that one possession, in that stretch of possessions. We have the potential. Our ceiling is so high, but we have just really, whenever we do look like we're about to reach that ceiling or have reached that ceiling, we have not been able to stay there. That's been the problem all season long, A-Ray, is piecing together long periods of time of when we are playing up to our potential and being at the ceiling we really do possess, with contributors like Dixon, Moore, Armstrong, Housen, and then our transfer portal guys, Burton, Bamba, and heart. And we have not been able to put that together. It's been really unfortunate because everyone now is calling for Kyle Neptune's job, but at the same time, it's like, all right, the experiment hasn't failed just yet. There's still enough, ample amount of time to really make a run at this thing, find your way in the big dance, and then it's like, who the hell would want to play us?
Yeah.
Who the hell would want to play a hot Villanova team that's won 8 out of their last 11 games and looks like, they got to the semifinals or finals in the Big East tournament? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but would you be shocked if that happened? No, I don't think. I think everyone would be like, okay, we kind of saw this one coming, and at that point, then we'd all be fired up and be like, who the hell would want to play us? Who? Because when we're playing like that, Ray, we could beat anybody. We can.
Anybody in the country. That's a big fact, and we already proved that we could beat anybody in the country. And we see what we did, like you said, to the number 1 team. It's just consistency, putting it together. Like, we see it, we watch the game. It's just no cohesiveness. It's not put together. Like, that's what we need to do. And who knows if we have enough time. We definitely don't have a lot of time. There's time, but not a lot of time. So it gotta happen. It gotta happen soon. Actually, it has to happen 2 games ago. To be honest,
You're right.
It has to
You're
happen
right.
2
You're
games ago
absolutely
to be honest. And we could sit around and talk all about how good the team is on paper, and this guy does this and all that other stuff. But we not playing, and they got to put it together at the end of the day
Facts.
on the court and put in the results. So we definitely got to
And
see. Go ahead.
And Ray, last year was similar. It was like
It
they
was.
put everything together too late. It was literally too little, too late last year. As soon as they started to play well, Justin came back from injury. Whitmore looked like he finally felt comfortable. He felt happy to be playing with everybody. We beat Creighton at home where Dixon dropped 30 on Cockburner, and it looked like, all right, here we go. We got some momentum. We beat Seton Hall. We beat Xavier, and it looked like things were starting to come together, but it was too little, too late. We lost to Creighton again, then in the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament, and that was it. We wound up being a first-round exit in the NIT. So that is my worst fear, to see the same exact thing happen again this season as it did last year, and that's not very far-fetched. It really isn't.
Oh, see, I'm not even
And it's
comfortable.
frightening.
I'm not even comfortable going into Seton Hall. Like, I'm not comfortable, like, in years past, going to Seton, like, okay, we play Seton Hall tonight. Like, it's going to be a tough one, but we can pull this game out. No, I'm not comfortable.
Right.
I'm not that comfortable. Like, I'm not even
Right.
that comfortable going into Georgetown. Like, into
Yeah.
Georgetown on the road, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable.
That's completely accurate, and I feel the same way. And it's like at that point, Georgetown's playing with house money, right? They've got nothing to lose. All the pressure is going to be on us because
For
it's
sure.
like, oh man, think about all the pressure that already is on us, and people want to be like, oh well, you guys are 11-10. It's like, at this point, whatever. No, Kyle Neptune is now coaching for his job,
Yeah.
right? These guys that are supposedly going to move on next season and play in the G League, in the NBA, overseas, whatever it is, they're playing for their basketball careers, and be like, oh, like, why would we take a chance on you? Like, you were part of that disaster of a Villanova team last season. So it's kind of like our backs are up against the wall. They have been for the last 2 games, Ray. I would completely agree with you on that. And at some points it looked like we showed up, but we weren't able to in the key moments of both of these last 2 contests, where we blew a lead against Butler in the last few minutes, lost in double overtime, and then last night we came all the way back, but didn't have enough to pull it out at home against Marquette. So, and real quick, you mentioned transfer portal and basically maybe using it like we did, bringing in 4 guys, or not so much. Shaka Smart and Marquette, they do not use the transfer portal. Shaka literally came out and said, we are shunning the transfer portal. That is not going to be part of our culture. We're gonna take guys from high school, develop them from there, and make sure they stay for as long as they need to become a real Marquette player. So that's certainly an option as well. But we also don't have Shaka Smart coaching our team. So
Everything is all great and dandy when you got pros on your team, when you can say stuff like that. Let's see how it hits Marquette once all those guys leave, and now it's time to like build that shit back up.
That's
You
fair.
know what I'm
That's
saying?
fair.
But I
It's still
do
those.
I do feel what you're saying. I definitely feel what you're saying, and like you can't discredit Shaka Smart and the the road he's been on to get where he's at now. A lot of coaching stops and all of the things that he's learned on the way to Marquette and the way he's sharing with them. They're a great team right now. But I want to see them without those pros on that team, without Iguodala on that team, without Cam, and then without Kolek on that team. Because that's the Shaka Smart that we've seen.
Yeah, and what an opportunity too, though, last night because Cam Jones didn't even play for Marquette, but obviously no one even noticed because of how well Kolek was playing. It was incredible. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he went off.
he said, of course, set his career high against us, like you said. Who doesn't have their career high against Villanova, right?
Crazy. Like everybody gets their career high against Nova.
Oh man, it's unbelievable, and just once again, big shout out to our guy Max Dolente for joining us from Barstool. Raynin Threes has had a ton of amazing guests, but I think Max was great because he was strictly focused on Villanova basketball. Right? We didn't talk too much about other Big East
Yeah.
ongoings other than Divine Providence Twitter situation. We were just focused on this program, and I think that's honestly what a lot of our listeners were hoping for, are looking for. But just like shout out to Max, and I really look forward to having him on again in the future. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a little bit more of a positive angle of the program. But you know what I'm saying, Ray?
No, definitely. Yeah. Would love to have him on again. He definitely had some great insights. And like you said, next time he does come back on, hopefully it's with some different kind of energy and not the energy we have now. But Nova Nation, y'all just gotta keep y'all heads up. You know, this is part of the journey. This is part of being a fan. This is part of being on a team. Like it's gonna be ups and downs. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be sad moments, real happy moments, but you just gotta ride through all of them. Never get too high, never get too low. I know you've heard that saying before, and like I really take that into heart. Like if something good happened, yes, I'm happy about it. I celebrate, but I don't let it take me through the roof and get me so high that like when I get upset, I'm coming down and I'm mad as hell. So, and then I never do the same way opposite. You know, never get so mad that a couple of hours later I'm regretting being as mad as I was or things that I said or did. So I feel your pain, Nova Nation. Trust me, I feel it. I love this team just like y'all love this team. And we just gotta fight through this. We gotta get through this. We gotta see the rainbow on the other end. Who knows when we'll see that rainbow, but it's there. We just got to get there.
Yeah, and A-Ray, we are all on the same side. I'm tired of seeing all this stuff on Twitter about Villanova fans' behavior was unacceptable at last night's game. Oh, this is so bad for the program. Who's gonna want to play for Villanova's program when their fans treat their players and coaches like that? Like, please stop. Please stop with that. Everyone is on the same team. Everybody wants this program to succeed, especially with Kyle Neptune at the helm of things. Everybody is rooting for that guy. No one is preying on his downfall. And if you are, you got serious issues. That's a you problem if that is the case.
That's
But
what I'm
listen,
talking
A-Ray,
about. See,
I can't believe that this narrative of Villanova fans fighting other Villanova fans and chewing each other out and talking smack about one another. Stop. This is the Nova Nation for a reason. Like we are all part of this community, whether if you're an alumni, if you are families with an alumni, whatever it may be. Stop. Students, I know you're disappointed. I know you're pissed off. Show your passion. That's fine. That's cool. I understand. Like, but there's no reason for us to be like, oh, you guys can't do that. That's not right. It's like, no, we're all sharing the same pain, A-Ray. We're all sharing this same frustration. We all so desperately want this team that we've had so much faith in to come through on their end of the bargain and win for themselves, for each other, for Villanova as an entire group, university, community, whatever you want to call it. Everybody wants that. So don't tell me for 1 second anyone is rooting against the team, is not rooting for the right reasons, and is trying to just maybe single out one guy, whether it be Coach Neptune or not. Stop with that. And if you are preying on this man's downfall, like I said before, you got your own problems. So please show support. But at the same time, if you're frustrated, we get it. Everybody is, Ray. Everybody is.
That's a fact, OC. And you just spitting big facts just now. You know, just let people vent, let y'all be upset,
Exactly.
and we'll get through it. Like we ain't got no choice. We'll definitely get through it. Let's just see how this next game go. Who we got next?
Providence. Divine Providence.
And they just came off a really good win too.
Should be fun, Ray. It always is.
We doing
Sunday,
another
6 p.m.
game watch.
Yeah, so you guys got to make sure you check Ray and I out on PSF, Pro Sports Fans. It's an app. You guys can catch us there doing live in-game coverage, pregame, postgame. We're going to do some weekly shows there as well. So please download the PSF app and follow them at PSF_APP on Twitter. We do a lot of great things on their platform, and they've been very supportive of us. So Raynin Threes and PSF are a great partnership, and we'll hopefully continue to grow and just continue to have fun with them moving forward. So give us those guys a follow, and make sure you tune in on the app when Raynin Threes is live.
Yes, definitely that PSF app. We had a lot of fun on there yesterday. Watching the game and commenting on the game, talking on the game. It was our first time doing it, and I didn't know what to expect, but I really had a good time. I enjoyed it, and it's kind of good. It's like a different perspective from hearing like the guys on TV and stuff like that. But I think it was cool. There was one part when Villanova, when they run, man, I was feeling the adrenaline. Like it was just running through my body. So
Yeah.
I had fun yesterday. So definitely download that PSF app and check us out on there. Game days, pregame. You can even come on there and chat. You can come on there, ask questions, like through live audio. I believe you could do video as well. Might be able to join us on the app as well if you're not scared enough to ask questions. So yeah, definitely that app is definitely a good look, and it has some really cool features. So please download that PSF app. We want to start doing more things over there. So to get you guys like some different content. So download PSF app at PSF_APP.
Yes, and you can find us at Mike O'Connell, spelled like OCONNELL, all one word, no spaces, and then at ARay43. And we are at the Nova Basketball fan group, so you want to join that community, and you'll see all the updates right there in front of you. So once again, it's been a pleasure, Ray. Shout out to our guy, Nick at Night, Nick McGow, always pulling the strings from behind the glass, making it happen for us. He's the man, and this would not be possible without him. So really appreciate our guy, Slick Nick.
Nick at Night, hope you have a good one tonight, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you do. Like OC said, behind the screens for us. You make it happen.
Yes, sir.
You make it happen, Captain.
Yes, sir. So with our guys, Slick Nick and Ray, I'm your host, Mike O'Connell. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Raynin Threes. We'll catch you guys next time.
If they're not watching YouTube, they can't see me. They can't see the flick of the wrist.